Normally, a Fed chair who's completed one term at the helm of America's central bank is expected to be re-nominated by the president. On the presidential campaign trail, Donald Trump slammed Janet Yellen's job performance, but recently he's been full of praise.
I think Janet Yellen is excellent. I think she's excellent. I didn't say that. I think she's excellent.
But of course, Janet Yellen was appointed by a Democrat, former President Barack Obama. Most people predict Jerome Powell will be chosen. He's been a Fed governor since 2012, and crucially, he's a Republican.
He's likely to not rock the boat very much and not change things very much. I don't personally think that's the best criterion for choosing a Fed chair who's going to be around, after all, for quite a few years. However, it's one that we can understand as being prudent from the White House's point of view.
John Taylor is also considered a frontrunner, but one who would likely rock the boat, perhaps by raising interest rates faster and by dismantling some of the unconventional monetary policies established in response to the last financial crisis. A former Fed governor, Kevin Warsh, is seen as the biggest risk because he's been a consistent critic of Yellen's low-rate stimulus policies. Trump's current chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, is widely seen as being out of favor with Trump, and he's a businessman, not an economist by trade. Professor Sumit Agarwal from Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business says the next Fed chair will need to respond to proposed changes to tax and spending policies under Trump. Depending on political machinations in Congress, the final result could either disappoint and potentially deflate the markets, or, if enacted, pump things up even further.
Can we see a bigger economic growth like what we see in the last quarter of 3%, and how will that change the Fed's stance on inflation monitoring and inflation targeting? Will they then have to clamp down more and raise interest rates faster because they're worried about inflation going out of hand?
But for now, in its latest statement, the Fed points out that inflation remains at a low level, so that, absent surprises, the path of future rate hikes looks to remain gradual.